Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Neroulis-Psiotis. I am the founder of Laura PR, which is a boutique public relations agency in America. I'm based between Miami and New York, and I also have clients within Greece and Cyprus. I'm also the founder of the Cypriot Young Professionals of the Cyprus U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I was also a board member of the Cyprus U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and now I am currently the U.S. and Canadian representative for the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. So thank you very much for being here today. This panel discussion, we have a few representatives from different places all over the world, including the UK, South Africa, and Australia. And today we're going to be really talking about how to harness the strength of the diaspora through economic and security diplomacy. I'm going to let everyone take a moment to introduce themselves. And then, of course, we want this to be an open conversation. We want you guys to be able to ask questions, interrupt as needed, have it be more free-flowing, and then, of course, I'll also moderate and ask some important questions for everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fanos Iofanous. I am based in London. I am here representing Cypriots in the City, an association that I co-founded. I'm the president of. And in my day-to-day life, I'm a banker in London.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Costa Constantino. I was born in South Africa of Cypriot parents. I was on the Students' Graduates Association, the Cypriot Graduates Association of South Africa. I was the president of the Hellenic community of Johannesburg, and I was on the school board. We have a Greek school in South Africa as well. And I'd just like to say that in the last couple of years, I got involved with the creating and being the president of the Modern Renaissance Arts and Culture Association, which promotes, educates, supports, and has an outreach program in arts and culture, which includes literature, theatre, and art, paintings, etc.
Hi everyone, my name is Lambis. I'm a Cypriot-born Londoner right now. I do strategy consulting as a living, and I'm here because during my university time I founded a platform called Cypriot Societies of London, which as its aim to bring together Cypriot students across London, across the 6-7 universities in London.
Good afternoon, everybody. Used to.
Switch.
My name is George Giorgio, born and bred in Melbourne, Australia. My father left Agros, Limassol, Cyprus in 1951. My mother left in 1956. And I'm a very proud Greek Cypriot Australian. I'm a chartered accountant, started my career at Arthur Young, which gives an indication of how old I am, because it's now EY. I now run my own business advisory and audit business from Melbourne with offices in Queensland and in Asia, and I'm here in my capacity as president of the Cypriot Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Australia.
Hello everyone, my name is Vartan Marashlian. I'm actually for the first time in Cyprus. Actually 24 hours ago I landed here.
Welcome, welcome.
Thanks a lot. So I was born in Armenia, spent most of my life outside, moved back in 2010 and permanently living in the country. I'm a former Deputy Minister of Diaspora, but currently I'm a co-founder and director of Repatriation Armenia Foundation, which helps people to Armenians by origin to gain repatriation, to establish and to have an impact in the country. But I'm also an expert on diaspora state relations for different nations. It's a very interesting experience that I will be more than happy to share with you.
Lovely, thank you. My name is Andreas Markidis. I'm a chartered civil engineer. I grew up in Cyprus, studied in England, and I've got my own consultancy, engineering and transport planning in London. My kind of closest association with my Greekness is the fact that I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Urban Myths, which effectively describes my own experience in the engineering and construction industry and relates it back to a Greek myth, which a lot of my English colleagues and friends enjoyed reading. And I'm currently writing a blog called Greek Roots Explained, which again takes an English word every week and explains its derivation from the Greek. Diaspora is one, for example, but I usually write a little story about each word to make it interesting and relevant to today's happenings in the world. And that's it.
Great. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with Fanos first. So you are a banker based in London. You were a partner at Deloitte, could not be more Cypriot than that background. And back in 2002, when we had our conversations, you mentioned that there were a lot of Hellenic societies in London, but there wasn't really anything that touched all Cypriots. We talked about Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, Maronites, Armenians, and you really wanted to create something. So it's 2002. The internet's not that great, obviously, back then. Databases are getting started. Social media is nowhere to be found. So I would love for you to explain how you started the Cypriots in the city. And now that it's grown globally, you're in Ireland, Dubai, UAE, Hong Kong, and you're looking to expand even further. How did you scale it so globally? And what lessons could Cyprus learn also from that model and to build meaningful relationships within the diaspora?
So what I would say is that back in 2002, life was very difficult in London because there were very, very few Cypriots. We needed a work permit, and you had obviously the diaspora Cypriots, but most of them did not identify as Cypriots. They're closer to London, and we see also from our events now that the participation is mostly first generation Cypriots in London, and Lambis, by the way, is also on the board of Cyprus.
Oh, he's next.
Yeah, but he's young. Probably he was a student when we founded it. So back in 2002, the feeling was that there is nothing that captures the Cypriots in London because there was a Hellenic, there was a Turkish, the Armenians had the Armenian, but there was nothing to show what is Cypriot. So I was a young professional with another friend of mine, George Lois. We thought, let's start Cypriots in the city, let's try to gather some Cypriots. And we struggled at the time to take 35 Cypriots in a room, and we had our first meeting in Lemonia. We were 15 persons. Initially, it was going to be drinks. And we went to 35 when we changed it to Lemonia and said there would be souvlakia. So that was a very nice way to start off. And then I ran that for 2 more years. Other people took over, and I got back to it sometime in 2020 with a different vision to open it to more people, to say, hey guys, we need to grow this. We attracted the Cypriots that came in London after 2005, post the accession to the EU. It was easier for them to come to London. And what we've done, and where we have been successful in other countries reach out, is we have an amazing mentoring scheme where we help students with their job applications. We're doing networking events. We've done roundtables with the government of Cyprus, with the president of Cyprus, where we give advice on what we think he should do, and with some of the things we said in the room, we're very pleased to see that they're implemented. We've done also a roundtable with the Minister of Trade and Energy, and again, quite impactful, I would say. We had the event with the Cyprus Investment Funds, promoting the funds in Cyprus. So a lot of things relating to Cyprus where people attended, and at the same time, people from other countries started reaching out saying, hey, how can we be involved? How can we participate in this? And yeah, we've opened it up in a few other countries very, very recently. And I have to say, the interest for one country is spectacular, Dubai, because people there are saying, gosh, this is a hassle because every day I get an email from someone in London who wants to ask, how do I relocate to Dubai? But that's, I think the key here was that we identified as Cypriots. And most importantly, we had an event with the Polish in the city, the Polish City Club, which is it was quite impactful on me when they said, first of all, the event changed my perception on Cyprus because they thought that Cyprus was something different. Actually, Invest Cyprus did a great job in presenting Cyprus. We had them there. And the other interesting fact there was that for them, it was the first time they've heard that as Turkish Cypriots. They knew North and South, which is the norm these days, unfortunately, but finding out that there are Armenian Cypriots, there are Maronite Cypriots and Latin Cypriots, it was a shock to the system. So these things, I think, make Cyprus, show the connection of Cyprus to many countries and that we're a multicultural society and not one club of Greek Cypriots. So for us, Cyprus is a brand, and it's a brand that stands on its own, and we identify as Cypriots, not as anything, not as nothing else. Not Greek Cypriots, not Turkish Cypriots. We are Cypriots, and if we want this country to go ahead, our feeling is that it should be brand Cyprus.
So what would be next for Cypriots in the city? Is it more cities? Is it more countries? Is it more professions? Is it more events? Is it doing more in social media? Is it working more with the government in Cyprus?
Obviously, we do work with the government, and we would like to do more with them, but at the same time, we are a community organization, so we are reaching out to our next generation. We've done a youth committee. We want to strengthen our youth participation because the inflow of Cypriots to London, unfortunately, is decreasing because of Brexit. So we want to make sure that this generation is captured. And we want to expand in more countries, especially West, because we have a lot East, so we would be very keen to do something in Miami.
USA. Miami and New York. Thank you very much. So next I'm going to go to Haralambo because it's a nice connection with you guys. So Haralambo, you also recognized a disconnect when you were in the university in London amongst the Cypriot students, amongst all the schools that, they weren't maybe doing things together, but they had the same vision, the same ethos. And so you started Cypriot Societies of London in 2019. You did events, you did charitable causes. So I would love because we're all young on this panel, obviously, but you're obviously the younger generation and the future pipeline of these organizations. And a lot of times, even trying to be embraced by established organizations, it's very hard as a younger generation. So talk about the early beginnings of Cypriot Societies of London, and then also joining Cypriots in the city, and the types of events or maybe initiatives that you wanted to bring to them to also help them grow further.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Laura, while at university, I held a few positions also as a president of the UCL. I studied at UCL, Cypriot and Hellenic Society at the time, and I've realized that there was a disconnect between all universities in London. Obviously, there are 6-7 universities in London, and we didn't do events collaboratively, and also we didn't know students across the different universities. So at the time, I wanted to create this new platform and bring all the Cypriot societies together, and then basically unite them in some way. And we've organized events with 300 people at times, live events or even panels. And upon graduating, I still, before that actually COVID hit, unfortunately, but we still tried to engage via online kind of events. And at the time when COVID hit, we were kind of the first means of contact between the foreign ministry in Cyprus. At the time, it was the current president, actually, Nikos Christodoulidis. So we were helping them bring masks in London and other necessities that were running out. And then, when I graduated university, I had to pass on the torch. And although the platform is not used today, the kind of the stigma that I left is that, they're now doing it even better than me, I would say, and organizing events together, all the Cypriot societies across all the universities, UCL, LSE, Imperial, etc. And once I graduated, before graduating, actually, Fanos and Amanda at the time reached out to me, and we were trying to find ways to collaborate when I was at university. We didn't do it at the end. I think it was COVID as well. And then once I graduated, I don't know if you remember, Fano, I called you and I kind of pitched him the idea to bring me on and help him and Cypriots in the city bridge the gap between the professionals and the students, because as a student, I didn't have the help that maybe I wanted. Maybe it's my fault as well, but I just didn't know Cypriots, to be fair, that worked in the city. And I think since being on Cyprus in the city, we've managed to flip this around, and not only through the mentorship scheme that we have, but through doing 2 to 3 times a year events with students, both in London and high school students in Cyprus. We are trying to educate Cypriots that want to stay in London and work in London. Yeah, hopefully, I think we're doing a good job in that.
Good. That actually is a good pass, because I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned when I had conversations with all these wonderful people before coming to Cyprus, because I wanted to get to know everyone and learn a bit more about them. You had mentioned that, and both of you had mentioned, that you do one event in Cyprus every December to help people prepare to go to London. What do you think the Cypriots abroad are looking for in terms of the connection to Cyprus, and then vice versa as well?
I think many times Cypriots abroad miss home more than and realize the kind of the value of Cyprus more than the people that are here. I think now with some initiatives, some are also looking to come back. You know, there's always that route back home. So I think it depends. It depends on the person. It depends whether they want to stay and have a career in London or elsewhere, Dubai. We're seeing a lot of younger people now trying to find new opportunities, maybe in the Middle East. So I think that's why, and Fano will be able to speak more broadly about this, but that's why we're expanding globally as well, because we realize that, you know, there are people that want to broaden kind of their working experience elsewhere, not necessarily in London. And Fano, I don't know, do you want to add something there as well?
So I think when it comes to, you can take the person out of the island for sure, but you cannot take Cyprus out of them, and everybody has a connection, or they may pass from Cyprus or whatever. But the point here is that your question was around how do we help them? So it's very difficult for a Cypriot when they're coming to London to know what do they need to do. And unfortunately, the job market it's so competitive. There are spring weeks, they need to start applying even before they come to university, and we noticed that Cypriots were missing there was a gap. They were missing all this pipeline. So they were trying in year 3 to take a job in London while they were having holidays in Protaras and being on the beach. And unfortunately, as I told them in last December, Protaras means no job in London. I'm sorry, you have to have internships and you need to do your spring week. But to achieve that, to pass the message, it was impossible. So we decided every December, one event for 6th form students or 3rd year in the Lyceum, whatever it is, to say, hey guys, this is what you need to do if you want to come to London. This is how you need to prepare, and this is how you're coming in September to London. So forget your summer and have your applications ready.
Very nice. I'm going to be moving on to Australia next. So George, you are the co-founder and current president of the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Australia. You have a magnificent background. You've been part of a lot of different initiatives in Australia. Too many to even say, but I would love for you to go into it as well. You're an accountant by trade, of course. And you also, similar to Fano, you started your organization about 20 years ago. So again, no internet. I mean, it wasn't as robust as it's today, no social media. You also had your ups and downs as well. I know you're looking to really engage in the younger generation. So what would you recommend, how can Cyprus really help you in the initiatives that you're doing in Australia to help strengthen the diaspora and to also help your efforts?
I actually checked my notes. We actually started nearly 40 years ago, when the first generation of Cypriots were running the usual local ginotida, and one of the founding fathers said we need to start a chamber of commerce, because the Hellenic chambers were uniting and doing some interesting things, and of course being an accountant, they made me the first treasurer, and I incorporated the association, all the usual things. And we were flying the first 10 years because we all came together as business people, as professionals. And what a lot of people don't realise, especially in Cyprus, is that Melbourne, where I'm from, is the third largest Greek-speaking community outside of Athens and Thessaloniki. There's over 300,000 Greeks. In Melbourne, there's 80,000 Greek Cypriots, or Cypriots across Australia. Sure, we're an island of 26 million people, but we have a very strong Cypriot community, and we have some very senior captains of industry. We even have a minister in the government of South Australia who spoke last year, if you might recall her, Andrew Michaels. She was a refugee after 74. She's a rock star. She's an amazing lady, and unfortunately what happened, we had the financial crisis and we had the banking crisis in Australia, the economic recession, and it made life very difficult for Cypriots and Australians in general. So we now had 20 years of economic growth and activity. We've got stability, but I would love to personally see some more collaboration between Cyprus and Australia. And one of the themes of this conference that keeps coming up is they want us to be the ambassadors for Cyprus. Mm-hmm. The other story that I keep hearing, and it's great that Cyprus is going to be the leader of the EU, is it, next year? So that, for me, has a connection because Australia punches above its weight. I think Cyprus should and can punch above its weight, and I'd like to see more collaboration, and if I get a chance later, I've got a few ideas on how we can possibly do that.
Sounds good. On that note, actually, I want to go over to Costa to talk about arts and heritage and culture. You also serve on many boards, and you've been part of many organizations to promote, educate, and support the arts and culture. You are our South African representative here on this panel as well. You're an accountant by trade, and you have a lot of initiatives and a lot of ideas that I know you'd love to put forward. And so my question for you is, how can Cyprus use arts and culture as a powerful diplomatic tool in the diaspora engagement?
How can Cyprus use it? Okay, I think as a cultural exchange, it's a two-sided thing. And what happens is everybody has an idea. And the idea is, they want to know about someone else's culture. They'll ask me about the South African. The South Africans will ask me about the Cypriot culture. So now culture, don't forget, is not only art, is not only literature, it's also food. It's also tradition. It's also religion. And this all is incorporated. And the best way for me, I think, is to have this exchange program where you have the Cypriots coming representing Cyprus to South Africa, showing what they have to show. Interesting enough, a friend of mine was in America at the moment, and he went to an exhibition in Nebraska, and there was a display of Cypriot art. And what's the Cypriot word? Guzus, something like that. These pottery of things. So the big thing is to promote Cyprus is firstly to tell people where it is. Mm-hmm. People hear Cyprus and you ask them, sometimes they're too embarrassed to say they don't know. So you say north of Egypt, west of Israel, east of Greece. And it's a big island. It's not a small island. That's another thing you must explain. So then you start talking about how old Cyprus is. You say Lazarus, like over Easter, that rose from the dead, lived there, died there. And when you say that, they go, wow. So you've got to get the interest of the people by explaining what Cyprus is and what Cyprus has to show. And when you start talking about, they tell you about people that like art. You'll say, well, there isn't an El Greco in the Levantis Gallery in Nicosia. And then people say, well, we want to go there. So I think it's the movement of people, and then people talk about it. The other interesting thing is that departments of tourism have to work closely with culture. And unfortunately, because I don't think they have the strength or they're big enough for it, they identify certain markets and they concentrate on those. But there are markets like South Africa, there's no promotion of Cyprus, they promote other islands. But as an organization, when you start showing pictures, talking about the authors, talking about the theater, showing pictures of old buildings, colosseums, because people think it's beach, because that's what people have thought about
the posters that we all see, or the stories that we see in the media.
So once they discover that there is this, and then you just talk about, we have our own Vatican, our church in the Kikos Mountains. So when you start telling people that, they get more interested and they want to know more. And I have hosted many South Africans, non-Greeks, and after they've been here, they can't stop talking about it. Because don't forget, the diaspora generally goes to where they came from. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I think we as Cypriots don't know Cyprus as well as we should, because if we come from a certain area, we tend to concentrate on that area. But I've made it my mission to visit every village possible. So when they say to me, I'm from Liso or Lysos, like some people say, then I say, I've been there. And that's what I like.
It's interesting that you say that. So I'm Cypriot from my mother's side and Greek from my father's side. And when everyone says, where should I go this summer? Go to Cyprus. It's beautiful. The beaches, the mountains, the wineries. They go, okay, where? And I'm so used to going to my yaga's house and staying in my little town and walking down Makariou. And there's so much to learn about Cyprus. But I believe that as diasporans, it's our job to also be those ambassadors and to learn more about where we're from and to continue to educate wherever and whenever we can too.
Yeah, just when the minute you say, for example, we have a village and it's called Lefkara, and it's got its embroidery and it's got its silver, and then you add the most important thing, and Leonardo da Vinci went there and bought a tapestry and he's put it in the Vatican, then it just people's eyes open, and then they have the desire to go there.
Very nice. Next, I'm going to go to Andreas Markidis. It's a bit different. You have a very interesting background. So we're going to talk more about urbanization with you and urbanism because you are the chair of Academy of Urbanism, which is all about sustainable development and wellness developments and to build better places, which Cyprus, as we know, is getting more and more popular with investments and buildings and developments. And you do come 6 to 8 times a year. You're part of ADEC. We had a very good conversation about that. And so I wanted to ask you, how can the Cypriot diaspora contribute to building more livable and resilient cities in Cyprus?
Okay. I'm going to take that question in 2 parts. So the first part really is the more general point about how can we, the Cypriots, affect the countries that we live in more general. And I firmly believe that we can do it simply by leading an honorable life, an honest life. We don't have to trumpet Cyprus and its wares all the time. All we have to do is be honest and good citizens of wherever we live. And that will make the other people say, oh, this chap from Cyprus is a good guy. We like Cyprus immediately. So the way we lead our lives is very, very important. And over and above that, we can all do other things. We can do what Lambis and Fanos have just explained. We can form organizations that promote collaboration, or we can have exchange visits to bring people to Cyprus. In my case, I do it quietly, if you like. I don't every time I speak to an English person, I don't say, oh, the horrible Turks, they took my home in 1974. I don't go into any of that. I will go into it only if they ask me. So I try and tell them about my culture in a different way. That's why I wrote the book Urban Myths. That book did more good to me, and I hope to Cyprus, than anything else I could have imagined. Because suddenly the people who read it, they thought, my God, there's culture there that we appreciate. We have so much to learn from these guys. And that raises the status of us individuals, the country, and our heritage as well. So that's by way of my first stage of your question. The second part is about urbanism. So you rightly said that I'm currently the chair of the Academy of Urbanism in the UK. I have to say that a number of years ago, I didn't even know what urbanism is. Some people don't know even now, and you have to define it. But very simply, it's about creating better communities, okay? Better livable and sustainable communities. So I, as an engineer, had very little to do with this concept until I became involved with the academy. I started to learn from all the other cities and European countries that I visited, and I realized that by building better communities, we create a higher standard of living, and fundamentally, we create healthier and happier people, okay? I don't think this concept is really taken ground in Cyprus at the moment. And that was obvious a couple of nights ago when I presented in Nicosia at a deck on βιώσιμη κινητικότητα, which is sustainable movement. We can all see that Nicosia, Limassol, all the Cypriot cities are really suffering from traffic. But traffic is only the beginning of the trouble. It's the way we lead our lives. It's the way we think about movement. So we need to change that. We need to change that. And I'm hoping that through my own influence, my coming and going to Cyprus, we can achieve that. A few years ago, I was asked to chair the Πολεοδομικό Συμβούλιο στην Κύπρο. And I tried to introduce those ideas then. It's very, very difficult to change. You can only change it through cultural influences. But it's not only about changing our way of life, it's also about turning Cyprus into the jewel of the Mediterranean when it comes to sustainability. I get very angry when I go to Scandinavian countries and I see how they have really taken on board this different way of living. The way they construct their buildings. They avoid using concrete, they use timber because that's more sustainable. The way they move about, they sit on bicycles instead of in cars. The way they recycle their waste. Somebody said to me that if we were to recycle all the waste from the hotels along Limassol, we would create, in a recycling center, we would produce more gas than there is in the Mediterranean Sea that we are trying to extract, and the Turks are stopping us from doing so. So we can do so much more if we were to turn Cyprus. If we were to say the slogan about Cyprus to the rest of the world, is going to be, this is going to be the green island. I think that will transform not only our economy, but also the life of the Cypriots.
Do you believe currently, are there any developments or initiatives that are currently in place right now that are going towards that type of methodology?
Yeah, I was encouraged to hear, certainly at the conference a couple of days ago, that there is even a conference now about green technologies. I think it's taking place this week. So we are beginning to get the hang of it, but it's 30 years after most European countries have already done it. So we have a lot of ground to cover, but that of course means more opportunities.
Well, better late than never, too.
Yes.
It's never too late to do the right thing. Thank you very much. So next on our list, we have Vartan. Welcome to Cyprus, your first time in Cyprus. And we had a very interesting conversation about your extensive experience with he's an international expert in diaspora relations, engagement, trust building, partnerships. You've been in the sector for many years, and you've done a lot. You have extensive work, specifically with the diaspora topic. What I found really interesting about your background was the talk of the emotional risk that we all take because we are so proud to be where we're from. We have these attachments, this heart. We may make decisions just because we hear the word Cyprus, or wherever we are from. So I want to go into the psychological and emotional factors behind a diaspora investment. And maybe how can us Cypriots tap into that mindset to be more effective?
Right. So, first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. I do represent a nation which has 3 million people living in the country, 7 million living in more than 100 countries, with a history of our communities lasting for more than 15 centuries. Not 50, 15. From that point of view, I can say that it's a quite challenging topic because diaspora relations and diaspora in general is very about emotions, about the past, about family, about city where you're from. But you can rarely hear things like target, what is a success, what is an impact, and its measurements. So in order to get out of this comfort zone when we are really appreciating all of those cultural, emotional elements that connect us directly with our home countries, I think it's very important to have a bigger picture. And bigger picture is possible when the nation in general doesn't look at the relations as part of the past and just emotions, but about the future and more rationally. So there you have 3 major elements. The first is if there's a common vision and common understanding of our identity, both in the country and outside. The second, if there is a big and various engagement infrastructure, both public and private, which help people from abroad to be connected with homeland in the right way. And the third is that if we have effective institutions, and basically when we talk about effective institutions, these are, the best case is like public-private partnerships, but in cases like in Armenia, we have a saying like 2 Armenians have 5 opinions. We have a lot of small initiatives which are created on the ground. They are very interesting, but they are not impactful enough because they are not scalable. So from that point of view, I think it would be great if you have this conversation of not what you've achieved so far, but actually what you're losing. And I'm sure if I look at my perspective as an Armenian, I would say that as a nation, which has such a huge resource outside of the country, we use maximum 5% of our wealth in terms of knowledge, skills, not only money, abroad. And through Armenian diaspora, using other countries' possibilities to support our country is less than 1%. I'm sure if you structure this conversation in that way, you'll be able to think out of the box and to try to develop better understanding how to achieve better results. Because it's very much about getting out of emotions and thinking about this in a more structured way. Because if you think about the second, third generation of Cypriots or Greeks living outside, many of them will be leaving the communities, will be outside of the community life, but they are those who are the most sophisticated, the most advanced with knowledge, skills, and networks, and they will be out of the loop. So I just want you to realize that we need to think it's a little bit in an alarm way, because it's not only people from Cyprus, Armenia, Greece that are migrating to other countries, but also our diasporans who are migrating from their national, ethnic identity towards assimilation, through assimilation to other nations. So if you create Cyprus as a sun, which brings people and has enough power, which brings them through the right programs, partnerships, then you will be able to absorb and use much more that potential. But in general, if you look at if it's an investment process, I'm an economist by professional background, if we look at it as an investment, so ideally the government is also an investor. It should provide a care investment, which is mostly education, culture, sometimes security, but in a very good way, not a voluntary basis, whatever, but a good quality way. And as a result of it, diaspora will invest a gratitude investment. So basically being proud of being Cypriot or Greek or Armenian And what happens quite often is the country itself, the governments are out of the game usually. In best cases, they don't spoil things, but they usually intervene in a very rude or indirect way. But diaspora does something in any case. It invests in any case, but it can do much more if the right dialogue is established and the partnerships are developed around common vision, identity, first of all.
So you've been here for about 12 hours now. 24. But you just mentioned something that I thought was very interesting about the Cyprus government and what they can do to really maybe strengthen the trust or the partnerships and to do really things that are more maybe tangible. But in your experience and for you having all this, been there before, what would you recommend? I know it's a short time that you're here, but what are some programs or what are some messages, or is it investing more in tourism or finance, or is it working with more diaspora networks, abroad? What would you recommend?
I would recommend to have several topics. From my point of view, it's very much not only about, for example, it's volunteering internship programs for youth. It can be business associations on expert promotion. It can be skills transfer related programs where professionals can come and be placed at the government and other institutions. So I will just bring one model that has been designed by one of the repatriates, and he brought a big engineering company's branch to Armenia, National Instruments. He's an engineer, so he thinks this way, like a big way. Like we have 3 million people living in Armenia, 7 million diasporans, and he said that we have 377 model. So 3 are engineers, 3 million living in the country. 7 is the second, these are diasporans, these are salesmen. And the last 7 is 7 billion people living in the world. It's our market. So if we just use it as an element, to think big, but also in a very practical way, we can structure this same approach in different ways, in different places. Same with the community organizations. They don't have KPIs. Mm-hmm. They just enjoy food and gathering, etc. But if they think more professionally, if the work is done more professionally, but it also is integrated in a bigger picture, when they see not only Cyprus as a past and something to do today, because of their ego, because of their feelings, etc., but Cyprus as their future, that will be a completely different model. But it's difficult to implement because you can see the same person in the diaspora who can be a very strong professional, very successful as an American businessman, as a UK businessman, as a Russian-Armenian businessman, or that doesn't matter if he's Armenian or not. When they come to a diaspora-related topic, they become very emotional, quite often inefficient, and you see that unfortunately there are very few diasporan institutions, networks that are working effectively.
You said KPIs, and I had to turn off my laptop because I was like, I can't do that right now.
Laura, can I come in?
Of course.
Yeah.
I was actually going to open up to you guys now to ask questions and to comment on.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent with Barton that obviously government is important, but as we saw from Fanos and Haralambos, the initial spark comes from one person. I went to a management course once, and somebody said, look, the worst word in the English language is the word we. We are going to do this, we are going to do that, and then nobody does anything. At the end of the day, it's one person that changes things, and probably the best illustration of that spark is, I don't know if anybody is aware of Cyprus Seeds. Mm-hmm. It's a new organization that was started by a diaspora person, George David, 6 or 7 years ago. It's supported by the Hellenic Initiative in America, and it's already helping a lot of research-based work here in Cyprus to commercialize their initiatives, their ideas, and to make Cyprus, the envy of other scientific countries. But that all started from one person with work, with support from other diaspora people, mainly in Greece and America. And I think that's the model that we should follow to grow Cyprus's status as well as our influence, both economically and scientifically, culturally in the world.
George and I actually talked about that in our conversations about the Hellenic Initiative, and so I'd love to get your opinion on, should Cyprus adapt maybe a certain model so we can really connect globally?
It's interesting you mentioned the Hellenic Initiative. We did raise it,
Yeah.
and I didn't finish answering your question before about the how the Cypriot Diaspora can grow in Australia, but because I'm seeing the forum as a platform for taking a lot of these ideas, including Cyprus Seeds and the opportunities and initiatives back to Australia, so that the younger generation who still love their Cyprus, don't visit as much as they would like to see how they can interact and help the communities regrow. Because the reality is the communities are still a lot of first generation Cypriots. But the Hellenic Initiative, which also has a very active Australian connection, and they've used social media. They've got a very strong young professionals, young membership, and they've just done amazing things, not just in Europe, America, Cyprus, but also in Australia. And I'm a big believer we should not reinvent the wheel. Let's do what the Hellenic Initiative have done. I believe there has been some talk in the past about, I think maybe you'd mentioned it, Laura, about the Hellenic Initiative having a Cyprus branch.
No, but that would be great. I think them investing in Cyprus Seeds is an incredible step with people even knowing more about Cyprus as well, because it's the only Cypriot organization that they really have focused on. But I'm very familiar with them being in the United States, and they've invested a lot of energy and time in the younger generation in the future pipeline. So the great thing about them is they've embraced the younger generation. A lot of organizations sometimes don't. And you have to, in order to continue the momentum of letting people know about Cyprus and why it's so great to be here, and just to educate people on all the great things.
Can I give just a small example? Last weekend we went to Agros, my parents' village, and there's a big statue up there of the twinning towns of Agros with Europe. Well, there was Agros with London towns and European towns, and I'm thinking my own parents' village does not have a twinning relationship with Melbourne, there's a lot of agrotes in Melbourne. So that's one of my takeaways, to go back to Australia and try and fix that. The other thing that I've been carrying on about for a number of years through the High Commission office in Nicosia, we have a small representative office in Canberra, the capital in Australia. Is that we really do need to have sister city relationships with Limassol and Nicosia and Melbourne and Sydney. So again, I would like to use this platform to put that on the table, and hopefully someone from government who will get copies of these sessions will listen to what we're saying, so they can take it on board, because there's a number of initiatives like that which need to be taken up.
I think, Laura, that I would echo the gentleman that we need more, but for many, many years the Cyprus diaspora focused only on the Cyprus problem. I mean, I've been in the UK many years, and in other countries, some of you hear is Cyprus problem, Cyprus problem, Cyprus problem. It's 51 years, and frankly, every person from another nationality, whether we like it or not, they have their problems. They don't care about ours. So it's only in the last few years where initiatives have started from the diaspora on other things to promote a different kind of Cypriots, a different view of Cyprus. So I think this is the future of the diaspora. It's our doctors are brought to show themselves and bring knowledge back. It's our financiers, it's our lawyers, it's everyone across to support things locally and at the same time promote the local things abroad. And Cyprus is a great, great example. When they came to the UK, I was at their event, everyone left from there and they were impressed that these things are happening in Cyprus. But again, for many, many years, many of the people, and there were some MPs, the only thing they've known about Cyprus was a problem. So it's up to the diaspora to change its directions and move in different ways.
You know, one of the reasons we started the Cypriot Young Professionals of the Cyprus U.S. Chamber of Commerce, because there was nothing for professionals in America that were Cypriots. We had the Federation, we had SAICA, and we had Nepal. You know, we had all the cultural and arts and the issues that also have come about over the last 50 plus years, but there wasn't really anything that echoed other types of needs. And right away, you know, it was 2013 when we began it, so social media was starting, we were getting to know databases more, the effects of websites and how to SEO and all of that, and we were able to cultivate a massive following very quickly. And I think it was also because, not that they were tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, but they were also wanted to meet other Cypriots and to network and to, you know, discuss other things as well. So I think it's important that in the diaspora, we look at all different types of, you know, backgrounds, and we think about other types of professions and try to all, you know, in our own way, use what we do on a day-to-day basis, but also help generate awareness for Cyprus in our own way.
True, spot on there.
Yeah. Any other questions amongst ourselves before I open it up to everyone? Any questions?
Let me pick up from there. My mentee last year got a job in investment banking in a bulge bracket bank. No, but because what we've done, we came out and said, we went to universities. Okay, in COVID it was more difficult during COVID days. But we went out and said, guys, this is what you need to do. Here is our mentoring scheme. Obviously there are hundreds. We'll have a competitive one. They answer some questions. And you can tell from the CV who can potentially do it and who cannot do it. And then you take that person, you coach them, you interview them, they do mock interviews, you pass them to more people to do mock interviews, you review their cover letter and so on, and then finally they made it. And actually the year before my mentee made it, and the year before they made it. And frankly, this year we have a young person that everybody has written her off, who went to a state school in Cyprus. She got 7 spring weeks, which was phenomenal. And we've helped her.
But you're a senior guy and you are the old one now because you spend time with these people.
I'm not the other. Lambis is there. We have a committee. We have other people who are mentors. We are opening it to have more mentors, actually. We're growing the mentoring scheme, but like, there has to be an understanding. If there are 1,000 people out there, we cannot mentor 1,000 people because we have jobs. But mentoring a few helps. And even what we've done, we were doing coffee chats to the point where we were gathering 6-7 people more on a Saturday morning in London, coffee chat. What do you need to do? Quick things, fix it, and move on.
If I can add to that, I think your question is, you know, if someone knows about your group and your work, then they can find a way through somehow. But the problem is we haven't got a common database so that if a Cypriot wants to do finance, engineering or whatever, they can go and find another Cypriot either in London or in America and talk to them and guide them to get through the system. I get lots of phone calls from Cypriot students who finish engineering universities because they probably look up on Google and they say Markidis Associates. Oh, that looks like a Greek name. Let's call him and see if we can get a placement there. But if it was more coordinated so that we had a database according to professions, that somebody was running it, maybe this is where government comes in, or the Hellenic Center, or somebody else, then we can help many more people than you already do, Fanos. I think that's the key question, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So
I agree. It's very few, but we're in the fortunate position that some of the persons that we've mentored 4, 5, 6 years ago, now they want to actively participate. So my view is you're not going to do something unless you have benefited from it. And to be honest, the reason I'm doing it is because I had a very good mentor who was a very, very senior person when I joined Deloitte. He was the head of EMEA of Deloitte. I knocked on the door and said, I want you to be my mentor. And he asked me, why? Nobody asks this question. I said, because if I want to go high in my career, I need to take advice from someone who did it. Otherwise, anyone else around this office is not good enough for me. So the point is, if you're a beneficiary of something, you want to replicate that. And we have the beneficiaries now, so we're growing this. So this year, we're hoping at least to mentor on the finance side 5 times more people compared to last year. And we're doing a specialized subcommittee for mentoring and so on. So for us, it's a big thing. The students are a very, very big thing. But we're in the fortunate position now to have more people. I agree. 5 years ago, we didn't have so many, but we can only improve.
So just to add on that, from what we have observed as well, I think having a database, I don't know how feasible that is, just based on the fact that we are all in companies, some in established companies, and they might not even allow us to kind of do this off the record. And I think as Cypriots, many times we think, we need help. You need someone to hold your hand and take you there. The harsh truth is that London is a very tough market. Myself, I applied to 200 companies to get where I'm at. So yes, mentorship is great. We do it. And as Fanos said, we are growing every year, and we're doing 2 to 3, 4 events in a year at times. But at the end of the day, it's the individual that applies, it's the individual that puts the CV together, it's the individual that performs at the interview. So there is a fine line between how much we can do and then how much the individual can do. So, and I think another observation is that every year CVs are getting better. Cypriot CVs from younger generations are getting better. So I think it's an educational thing as well. And that's why every December we come in Cyprus and we do a panel for high school students, because we want to help them from a young age. And it doesn't necessarily mean one-to-one mentorship, but also helping them understand what the job market is and how difficult it is to get a job.
Let me add something on the database, because let's say we have a database. My view is that 99% of the people will not use the database. It's 2 parties. Now, whether it's updated or not, it's one issue, but most young people, if they're hungry to get a job in London or Dubai, wherever, they will find you. Yes, Paul.
I'd like to add something to that, because I think from a personal experience of trying to put the Cyprus Diaspora Forum together, the biggest challenge is obviously finding the pioneering individuals that are in the Cypriot diaspora. And I think we've got to take it a step back and look at the government. The government has a pivotal role to play in the sense that they already know who the trailblazers are out there. Perhaps they could create a mentoring program and subsidize those individuals to say, for example, Fanos, you're in a position that we could subsidize you to create a program that could then create awareness. I think this is the key.
I have to say that I pitched us to Invest Cyprus, and they gave us the support. So we're very, very grateful to them. With us, they're doing an amazing job.
I think it's all about what Sandra was trying to say is a hungry Cypriot, and I can speak from personal experience. My son, for example, he was going to go to London to study film. And then he would try to figure out where do I start, who do I speak to, who can I connect with. Apart from the societies that the universities have, and a few prominent individuals, had it not been for my database, that I knew a few key people to guide me. Now, picture this, another individual doesn't have someone that has a database or a father. How does that person come into a foreign city and then connect with these mentors? And I think Peter Abraham also stumbled on that last year. And if we had the government support, because it is key to have government support up to a certain point, it's right what you said. It's not just about the Cyprus problem. The Cyprus problem has been there for 51 years, and we all would like it resolved because one way or another we're all affected. But we mustn't also forget that the people like Denis Hassabis, who are at Google Mind, and the other day he actually spoke to me on the phone. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but he said he would come up with a plan of funding part of Google a mentorship program for individuals from Cyprus who would want to connect and be mentored by someone like that. Now imagine them pitching it to the local community and saying, you have the chance to be mentored. Then it's about the process of the CVs and seeing who can and who can't. And then those 10 individuals become 20 eventually, and 40 and 60 mentors in this whole great team of them. So I think the government is doing great, but I think we also need to look at the new generation, what they want, how can we develop as a nation, and create programs that will inspire and nurture that youth to also follow the mentors but become mentors themselves, and thereby bring people back to Cyprus. Because we're losing our brand, we're losing our kids. And my son is stuck out in the UK because he doesn't have the opportunities to come here to Cyprus, because he didn't have the right mentors, he didn't, somewhere along the line, the government has to play a more active role with the community. I'm not slamming the government, don't get me wrong, because I know they've got a million things to do. But one of the main areas of concern is not going to the diaspora and begging them to relocate. Create the opportunities for the youth to be mentored so that they can say, come, let's go back to Cyprus.
Excuse me, I can bring several very concrete examples that Armenian diaspora is doing over the country. First is Igorts, which is 100 people coming for 1 year placement with the government from the diaspora. It was pros and cons, but still it's a good working program. Second is Birthright Armenia program, where 250 youngsters from 21 to 32 are coming to do internship in Armenia from 2 months to 1 year, and it's a family foundation. So it's not government, but it's pretty effective. And some of them stay in Armenia, but most of them don't. Even if they don't, they get this very interesting experience, which they can capitalize for their employment outside. The third is AVC, Armenian Volunteer Corps, which is for 32 plus and non-Armenians. Also a great opportunity to do internship or volunteering. Another one is Armenian General Benevolent Union's Young Professionals Program, where the placement is in the diaspora for the diasporans, but also between the countries. So a guy from USA can go and have an internship at a company where the top manager is Armenian, but in France or in Russia. And I mean, not in Russia today, but he was in Russia too, like in Argentina or Lebanon. So this kind of inter-diaspora professional connections are also important. So this can be led by the government. It cannot be led effectively by the government. But in the best case scenario, this would be a public-private partnership where both the government but also a diaspora institution would develop it. The government will place promotional and the capacities, promotional plus the status, etc. And the diaspora would do it flexible, professional, etc. So again, but you can get there where there is enough level of trust between the government and the diaspora, and where the dialogue is on a higher stage rather than just a multiple number of very good things, which all of you are doing, I'm sure. But in terms of scale, from my point of view, and the same I can say about Armenia's case, we are very underscaled. In most of the best things which I saw, it's very pity that the program like Birthright Armenia is bringing only 250 youngsters. They should bring 5,000 people. Then it will change the narrative of the country. Then it will change the problems of the diaspora. So it's like you are an organism with a heart pressure which is 60 to 20, not 120 to 80. That's what most of the diasporas and the nations are dealing with today. And unfortunately, they do not realize it. They are okay with this 60 to 20, but they don't understand that this model doesn't have a future, and we lose a lot because of inability to get to a different level of dialogue.
We set up in England a solicitors and lawyers association of Cypriots, and it came to the attention of the then Cyprus government, and the Attorney General's office in Cyprus in the late 80s arranged a number of trips to Cyprus to meet other lawyers, the Attorney General's office. We were there 3 or 4 times, each time forward, and it was a really, really successful enterprise. And what it then did was to develop a relation between the lawyers in the UK and the lawyers in Cyprus. And a lot of those who wanted to study law in the UK from Cyprus finished up getting jobs with us, and I'm unfortunately, that organisation split up because it became a dating agency. All the young people found their partner, right, and then left the organisation. So my only suggestion would be that if you have a similar organisations, then we make sure that only committed relationships are committed, because otherwise it's very hard.
George?
Just further to what Paul was saying, what we touched on before with the Hellenic Initiative, my understanding is that they exploded through social media. Now, I'm a dinosaur. I use LinkedIn for professional networking. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on the others. But I've also, one of my takeaways from this forum is that there's a lot of smart kids out there at the universities. You know, the research and innovation seminar next door was just amazing of what's been produced by the universities and the students there. So the government should be asked to employ these kids, these interns, to explore the use of social media to scrape and find all the Cypriots around the world and to, you know, in a proper professional, non-invasive way to get onto a database. It can be done. You know, you mentioned, you know, the boss of Google who wants to be here. Well, we'll speak to Google, we'll speak to Facebook, we'll speak to them and make this happen, because I think it's a huge opportunity for the Cypriot government, the Cypriot nation, and also the diaspora.
Let me say something there. It's a great idea. My experience with trying to do something with Cyprus is really bad. And as an example, we've said we'd like to bring some people from London to talk to public school students about how they can go about perhaps getting a scholarship in the UK, how they can get a job in the UK, what they could look at the UK. It's impossible. You write to someone an email, they will reply to you after 15 days, as if you have nothing else to do. They want you to accommodate the time that they want, as if people from London have nothing else to do apart from come to Cyprus. So it's not in the culture yet to embrace networking, which is very good in America, by the way, and it's still on its infancy in the UK, but we're not there yet, and someone should force people to start doing it. Because when we called, let's say, from my firm to a few schools in England to say, hey, we want to come and do this, we were getting answers in 20, 25 minutes. They would accommodate whatever we want, and so on. So my experience with Cyprus is that you have to do it outside the system, or for the time being, nothing is happening because the teacher knows he will have his job forever until he retires. He has a safe pension. He doesn't really care. He's giving you an email. He will look at it after 2 weeks. He'll get back to you. And I'm sorry, I get 300 emails a day and I reply. If a teacher cannot reply to the 20 emails he has, it's pathetic. And a lot of people have given up. People tried, but they give up. That's a problem. They come across a system which is not quick enough to respond.
Or comments? Thank you very much. That was a wonderful and dynamic conversation. Thank you everyone for coming to Cyprus and attending this panel, of course. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And I think we should take a group photo as well. Thank you very much.